All right, we are live. It is Trauma Thursdays. We are live on the Dr. Lana page as well as we are live on YouTube. And Dr. Dawn, I believe that you tell them your page, tell them where to find you.
At Dr. Dawn Psych MD, that's DRDAWN, P as in Paul, SYCHMD.
All right, Dr. Dawn, I'm going to share to my page as well. And then we gonna get rolling.
All right, like the Simon class here.
And of course, my technology is trying to act funny today.
Girl.
Hello, everybody. Tell me where you are. Tell me where you are residing at the moment. Drop in the comments. Let us know that you're here. This is Trauma Thursdays. And on Trauma Thursdays, this is my ministry. This is my place and my space where we talk about trauma. We talk about mental health. We talk about all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. So I see people jumping on, and I think we got it shared. So, Dr. Dawn,
Hey, Dr. Lana.
we decided that we were going to have some difficult conversations today.
Yes, we did.
And this episode, racism, the trauma of racism.
Just the words are a trigger, right? The words are a trigger.
All right, buddy. Hold on just a second. I gotta get, it's hug time. So
hey, sweetheart, hello.
All right, buddy. I'll see you later. Bye. You tomorrow. All right.
I love it.
I had to get my hug time in because
I know that's right.
I can't hug that many people anymore. So we have a moment where we just say it's hug time, and
that is awesome. That's amazing. It is. That's a really good idea. Yeah. Seriously.
I mean,
we know what hugging does, right?
And we also are missing it right now. We're missing physical contact, and I think it's important with trauma that we are intentional about soothing things. So, hey, everybody, I see y'all jumping in. We got people in Plano. What's up, Ellis? We got people in North Carolina, NC. We got Cape Girardeau in the house, Missouri. Show me state. That's my state. That's your state.
Oh, hey, Missouri. I lived there for 9 years.
I'm telling you that show me state, Atlanta, Houston, hear from all over. So thank you all for joining us on Trauma Thursdays.
Dr. Alauna, I'm actually going to stop my live feed on my page just because people are watching, but they're watching as a separate party. And I want them to be a part of the entire party.
Yes, ma'am.
Keep going.
Tell them, come on over to Dr. Alauna. Come on over to the feed so we can all have this conversation together. We're having it from New Orleans. We got folks in LA. We in the house tonight, baby.
What's up, y'all? How's everybody doing tonight? Yes. Hopefully everyone is safe and well.
Well, this is an opportunity for us to have some discussions about what's going on in these days and times. We have some shenanigans popping, and I think that we have to have a long overdue conversation, and this goes beyond black, white, green, whatever your body shape and your physical presentation is. We know that we have to have some serious conversations about how we think about each other. So, Dr. Dawn, how are you feeling? You called me up and said we need to have this conversation together. How are you feeling?
Can I tell you how I was feeling at that time?
Sure, please.
I was feeling angry. I was feeling furious, upset, sad, excited, and trying to understand all these emotions. Because what happened, Dr. Alauna, is that I intentionally cut off my phone on Monday. See, after Facebook Live, I usually do that. And so I can actually kind of rebalance my own mind, right? My mentation. So I didn't hear about what happened on Sunday or on Monday until Tuesday when I was having a meeting, a conference meeting, Tuesday evening. So I had not looked on TV. I had looked at social media to this, and so my marketing, company was actually posting for me, which they normally do. So I had no exposure until Tuesday. And so all of these emotions came at once. So I'm hearing, about everything at once. And I called you. I think I called you like midnight. I'm so sorry. I was like, listen.
You wasn't the only
Let me call the expert. Dr. Alauna.
You see how y'all do me? I just want y'all to understand. For 1 second, let me just say, that's why I have to be really careful, because as a trauma psychiatrist, I get the call when trauma happens, and
yes.
Yes. But I welcomed your call.
You did, but I would have been okay if you created that boundary, like I did on Monday and Tuesday and Sunday as well. So, but I think my emotions really took over, and I immediately called you, not even understanding what time it was, because I was really enraged. I was enraged.
Yeah.
How much more do we have to die? How many more does it take? Like, why am I even asking that question? Right? How many? So that's where I was. My spirit was not in the right place. And I'm glad I talked to you, because you got me calm and you brought me back, and you were like, let's do this, because there were so many elements to this that we really need to discuss.
Yeah. So while we're at it, let me remind people, please share, please follow the pages. We're going to have a part 2 of this conversation probably next week, because we got so many questions and comments, and so many people saying, help us have this conversation about race and racism. Help us have this, help us gain understanding. So Dr. Dawn, can you take us through a little bit of the exercise, just so we can, because when I'm feeling my amygdala storm, which it's storming, a lot of people are describing feeling exhausted, feeling tired. I know that just some simple breathing sometimes can help reset. So get us right, girl. Get us right.
Yes, it can. So we're going to do a very quick meditation that I often do with my patients. It can be done as young as 5, 4, all the way up to 180. What we're going to do is we're going to actually get in a comfortable position. Now, as you get in that comfortable position, I want to tell you that deep breathing exercises are very important, especially when you're stressed or angry. And because we're about to embark upon a conversation that can be very stressful and can cause some emotions to resurface, deep breathing helps relax not only the mind, but also the body. What happens is the heart rate accelerates, the muscles tense, the body tends to, tense up, muscles are... So we have to counteract that by deep breathing. When we get angry and anxious, we usually have shallow, short breaths. So we're going to counter that with long, deep breaths. So I want you to get a comfortable position, and I want you to inhale for 5 seconds, and you're going to exhale in through your mouth and your nose, and you're going to exhale through your mouth and the nose for 7 seconds. Okay? So just follow my pace. Inhale. Exhale. Slowly. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. Last one. Inhale. Exhale. All right. One of many ways. There's so many ways you can do this. How you feeling, Dr. Arma?
A little bit less like punching stuff. So, yay. And I'll share my experience of doing the breathing exercises, um, that I led them for years before I actually made myself do them on my own, and was kind of surprised by how effective they actually are.
Right
I'm trying to
midday,
say that.
right before another patient, in between patients. Yes.
Yes. So I have learned over time that most of the things that we foo-fooed a little bit, like meditation and
Hmm.
yoga and deep breathing and things like that. I have a lot of people who are just like, yeah, it doesn't work for me. I don't need it. And I'm like, okay. There are just some factual things about how our bodies are designed that
Yeah.
meditation and deep breathing help to center us on, which is like right now, we need to be aware of our breathing. We need to be aware of our
Yes.
lungs. There's a virus
Yes.
that can sit in your lungs, and you sitting there thinking you okay, but you have 70% oxygen until you
Right.
crash out at a hospital. So doing
Hmm.
these breathing exercises also help to make your lungs expand and help make you more resilient and more connected to your body so that you can be aware if something is going sideways.
That's right. Amen. Now, it
And
all connects. It all connects.
it
You're
does.
exactly right.
It does. So
Yes.
let's get to it. Now, when we were talking about this, having this conversation, and we had our intro conversation, I mean, I know I was hyped because I'm mad. I'm pissed. I know I'm smiling.
Yes.
I know I look okay, but I am not okay. I am sick to life
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Insert
how,
whatever word you want there.
yes, I'm trying to choose my words very, 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 very carefully because I know how powerful words are. And um, the deaths of, goodness, it's so many that I have to stop and think about it. I'm like George Floyd, but we had Breonna Taylor that happened a couple weeks ago. We have Ahmaud Arbery.
Hmm.
Then we can't even bird watch, sis. You can't even
Right.
bird watch in the park.
Right. And yes, black people do bird watch.
Now, I actually read an article about how bird watching is a very traditional white male hobby, and that
Hmm.
people who bird watch often use bird watching tools like
Hmm.
binoculars,
Binoculars.
and they
Yes.
stand in places and look at things for large amount of time, so they look suspicious.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What are you really looking at through those binoculars in a park? And you're black. I mean, it just really goes with the stereotype, right?
Mhm.
Which is one of the
So
things we really do need to
we
address.
we have
Hmm.
to talk about, like, so define stereotypes. So what how would you define the difference between stereotypes and discrimination? Because I hear sometimes people using those two.
Yes. You know, I feel the stereotypes is just a generalization of a culture, like generalizations of a person or individual or even a group that you picked out of a larger population, or it could be culture related, right? So it could be
Mhm.
females, it could be color, based on color, it could be based on gender. I said that. What socioeconomical status, that you've actually generalized their situation from what you know to be
Mhm.
true based upon your
Mhm.
previous experience or current experience with that similar type of population.
So basically you look at the shell of a person and your
Mm-hmm.
mind dissects what you think you know about them. From where does it come from? Where do the stereotypes come from? Where do you think we get all these generalizations? Because we all do that a little bit. Where does it
We
come from?
do. It can come from previous experiences. It also can come from just what we hear through conversations,
Hmm.
perceptions. You
Hmm.
know, it could be like when we were younger. It can even start that young,
Yeah,
right?
media, what we watch on TV,
Media.
the
Oh yeah, media is
news, what we
huge. Media
see.
is huge for it. Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
we have it. It seems to me like anyone who would look at someone else and draw conclusions about them just based on what they see on the external package, is not operating with empathy, or not
Mm-hmm.
operating with a at least the idea that their version of reality is not the only version of reality that exists. And to me, that particular, like, I had to, let me back up. Let me back up a
Start
little.
there, sis. Yes, that's deep.
When I first started thinking about trauma and racism, I was working at the VA. And as a psychiatrist at the VA, I often had the minority patients somehow just ended up in my clinic. I don't know. I don't know. And I would have these veterans telling me about their experiences in the military, racial trauma, and there was nowhere to put it on the checklist that they give us for talking about trauma. They ask about natural disasters. They ask about sexual traumas. They ask about physical traumas. Have you ever been robbed or a victim of a crime or anything else? But there was a lot of thought put in these assessments, but yet we are not taught to look at racism and racial traumas as official traumas. So that
Right.
in itself disturbed me and made me start to question, well, what if I just let the person's version of trauma, what they tell me is traumatic, be traumatic, and let's look at it like that. Because obviously there's
Mhm.
something missing in the curriculum if we can't acknowledge that racism is trauma.
That's correct. It's not even our DSM-4, 5, excuse me, our DSM-5. This is the diagnostic statistical manual that we use to determine if someone meets criteria for a certain mental health condition. There's racism is not even mentioned,
Mm-mm, nowhere.
right?
I
And
remember. Do you remember hearing the story about in the DSM-3 where they did not put nicotine addiction in the DSM-3, and that was in part because many of the people on the committee, this was in the what 80s or so, and
yeah,
everybody
around the
smoked
80s.
cigarettes were cool. So they put
Mm-hmm.
alcohol, they put marijuana, they put all these other drugs in there, but the blind spot was nicotine.
That's
And
right.
for me, this feels like the blind spot that America has not addressed.
It is, Dr. Lana. I want to add something. When we talk about the DSM and the history of the DSM and how it became established by the American Psychiatric Association, which is the committee that actually designed or actually wrote the DSM, right? Um, they studied white men for these conditions. They did not study any other races. So the DSM criteria are based on white middle-aged men.
Hmm. Interesting.
Hmm. So
That's
why would you have something right? Because I could go off on a tangent talk about ADHD
woo,
and trauma. There's a
right. I'm
huge
like,
right,
I'm
but
thinking
we
so
gonna stay
many,
on course.
I'm thinking so many thoughts right there. I'm just gonna hold my mule on that one.
Oh, your mule.
Um,
Not even women were considered for this. White men. That was the predominant group that was actually studied in order to determine these conditions and what criteria make up these conditions,
hmm.
which
I,
is we still
I,
use today.
yes.
But I think as African American psychiatrists, we also incorporate our cultural differences into the
Hmm.
mix. We've actually probably trained at institutions that are, that were really good in that incorporation as
Hmm.
well,
That's
right?
true because I definitely give Xavier and Baylor a lot of credit for,
Yes.
really encouraging us to think outside the box and to really address things in a direct way. So,
Mhm.
speaking of that, that was one of the things we talked about, a historical perspective on racism. And tell me your thoughts in turn, because I don't want to necessarily dive right in on mine, but like, what do you think we have to look at from a historical perspective in order to make progress on racism? Because I think we all sick and tired of it.
We sick and tired. We really have to go back to the origin of where we came from. We have to have a good understanding of who we are.
Hmm. I
in
think,
order to determine if a
yeah,
behavior, if words, if anything is used against us, right? And also that deepens the conversation of, well, is it this happening against me because of my color
mm-hmm,
versus because of my culture,
mm-hmm.
right? Or how I engage, or how I don't have, or I have empathy but you don't. I mean, all of that is really, it's racism, but I think it's also culturalism. If
Absolutely,
you know what I'm saying,
absolutely.
right?
So, like for me, lack of empathy is the
Mm-hmm.
defining theme of our problem with racism. And when I say that, I mean, when I look at human history and I look at, okay, a species that started out in Africa and migrated across the earth, across Caucasus Mountains and losing their melanin and their minds a little bit, it
Right.
happens,
Yeah.
and migrating throughout the rest of the earth. And we finished the Human Genome Project in 2008. And the
Yes.
Human Genome Project, Baylor College of Medicine was part of it, which is why it was kind of a big deal, for us. And it said that we are 99.9% genetically the same. Our DNA is 99.9% the same.
Can you repeat that, Dr.
One
Alauna?
more time. One more again.
Thank
One
you.
race,
One.
99.9% the same.
The same.
0.1% difference makes the difference between me and you and any other human being walking around on the face of the earth. And we have
Mhm.
6 billion, billion with a B, 6 billion DNA base pairs, and only 6 million of those make the difference between male, female, white, black, Asian, Latino, whatever, all the shades, the hues. It's one race, scientifically proven that we're one species, one human race, with lots of hues and variations and lots of expressions, phenotypic expressions of hair and ear shape and size and nose. But we can clearly see that we have more features in common than
Yes.
we do separately. How in the world have we managed to magnify such minutia in
Yes.
such a major problem as racism?
Right. Because racism is a man made behavior that deserves to be in the DSM because it's actually creating mental health conditions.
Touche. Let's write up the petition. I think it's a delusional disorder.
It
What
is.
what is
It
it? What
is.
is the definition of a delusional disorder? Of a fixed false belief.
Right.
And
Delusion.
humans have a hard time letting go of fixed false beliefs. Delusional
Mm-hmm.
disorders, we don't have medication for them.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
half the time you can't do anything with them because no matter what evidence is presented to them, their mind is going to find a way to work around it. And
That's right.
I do some I'm looking at the comments based off of fear. It's a construct.
Yes.
So when I started looking at,
And control, Dr. Ilan. Control.
absolutely, control.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
we haven't talked about the real problem. And when you don't talk about a trauma, you can't fix something that you don't call a problem, right? You
That's
can't give an answer to something that you don't acknowledge that you have. Every time we have a situation, whether it's calling the police on a black person for existing, or and making up a story or getting all emotionally out of whack. The guy who challenged the young men in the office building. There's a guy they were working out in the gym, and he charged them up like, show me your card and all this other stuff.
it.
Like
Right.
if
Like, I live here and I'm gonna work out here. Like, wait, but first of all, who are you?
real talk, who are you? Why do you
Right.
believe that you have the authority to police other
That's it.
people? And that's what I mean
The
by
delusion.
the delusion. that
Mm-hmm.
having this construct of seeing another person, another spiritual being having a human existence, same as you,
Yes.
within a
Yes.
physical body, and telling yourself that you understand not only what that physical body is doing, thinking, and being, but that you think that your version, what you think they
Mm-hmm.
should be doing or who they
Mm-hmm.
should be, should define them more than them defining themselves. It is a blind spot, it is a
Yes.
mental illness, but there's no
Yes.
excuse for it because it can be treated with knowledge and information and self evaluation and understanding how powerful your thoughts are to create your experiences, create your emotions and your reactions, and learning to check yourself. Check
Oh
yourself.
yes. Got to. You have to. That's you're exactly. I mean, you're exactly right.
It,
You're
it, it,
exactly right.
it's irking me, sis. It's
I
irking me.
know. Me as well. And what's interesting is how you're saying that empathy can be taught,
Mhm.
right? It's because a lot of people who actually incite or practice racism don't have the empathy. They may have not been taught the empathy, or they have a way of just turning it off or shutting it off based upon their own excuses. So, this has happened to me before, or this is my own post traumatic stress thing that I'm generalizing to that person that I see, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so many things, generational things, the America, our statutes, and how America's built on. We were talking about the Constitution, right?
yeah,
All men are created equal, but if you're not considered a man,
you're right. So
you're
if
not gonna
I
be considered.
And that's a great example of what I would call primitive subjective thinking, right?
That's
I
right.
I have to be able to tell myself something that allows me to live with myself in order to do this to other people. If you look at our founding fathers and you look at our founding mothers, because they brought women folk with them too, they were being persecuted for their religious beliefs in their primitive society. Because I don't see a time in especially in European history and really in the written history that we have right now, there's really not a time where humans were not looking at another person and saying, I don't like what you're doing. I'm judging you
Right.
for it. I'm in fact going to make your life really hard and I'm going to make you feel a invisible pain. Not maybe I might kill you, but I'm definitely going to psychologically mess with you and oppress until you do what I want or you run away, which they ran their butts across the bunch of water and then came
Mm-hmm.
over here and said, we all want to be free. We all want to be equal. And the ones that look like us, who we're the people that I call my tribe, and then look at a whole nother human being that's built just like them and say, oh, well, because they look different than me and their skin is a little browner and their hair is a little straighter, they speak a different language, and I don't understand their culture, I'm afraid of them, so they must be less than me. They must be an animal. And I have to think like that very primitively in order to justify me killing, shooting, and doing damage to a thing. So I can
Exactly.
acknowledge that our
Mm-hmm.
ancestors did something amazing while still going,
Yes.
ooh, y'all were really primitive.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
be great
Because
people
I
before.
can't find it anywhere in my heart or in my mind, even in my spirit, to want to harm somebody. Just,
Well,
I mean, period. Forget how they look.
Well, you blessed for that, because I will say that probably one of the things that made me a good psychiatrist is that when they be like, well, and then I shot him, and I'd be like, well, I can kind of, I
I can
kind of
understand
understand.
it.
But here's the thing.
I,
That was the thing about actually learning to use empathy, because I will
that's
say that I did
it.
start off there. I'll say
That's
that
it.
the way they taught us empathy, I think, was superficial, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were taught empathy is like being emotionally engaged, not asking your questions, but not making it feel like an interview. So,
Mm-hmm.
bedside manner, soft skills that are certainly helpful, but not the depth of
Not
empathy.
the depth of the empathy, the
Yeah,
questions you need to be asking so you can
exactly.
really understand at least understand what it's like to be in somebody else's shoes.
Yeah, yeah. basically. But here's the thing, I also came to the understanding that you can't teach something that you don't know.
There you
And
go. Or
there
you don't
have
want to know.
there it is.
Sorry.
So then when you take it deeper and you look at something with empathy, and you also apply understanding of the internal mechanisms that are creating these powerful urges and these powerful behaviors that we have, like it started to mess with me to look at people and say, and have to realize, like, this is a powerful spiritual being in this body, in this package, and I know they don't understand their reticular activating system, that they have an amygdala that is creating powerful emotions inside of them, and being able to actually learn to control those urges and those feelings, or even have words for those emotions. So I think that it was important to me to talk about this, because putting words to the pain, I think, is one of the things that people are struggling to do. Can you help us with some emotion words so we can, I don't know, what?
It really is based upon, so meditation allows me to have a clear understanding of what I'm feeling, because I'm eliminating distractions, right? I'm in my own thoughts, and I'm really trying to understand what I feel while understanding what I'm thinking, and making that connection allows me to produce a word. Does that make sense?
It
So
does.
like when I'm fired up, I'm angry, my heart really does beat fast. I really do start breathing shallowly, probably faster paced breaths.
Hmm.
And then my mind is racing. And so that's anger to me. I've
Yeah,
defined that as anger. My muscles are tense.
yeah,
I'm probably getting heated.
yeah.
And then
My jaw
yeah.
clenches. Yeah, my
Yeah, it's
shoulders be up
clenching.
here. I'm like, why am I so tight? Like, I
I'm
know I
so
get
tight.
snappy. I snapped at my friend the other day, and I had
Mm-hmm.
to apologize. And I also had to say, I realized that it's, when I hear it's, I'm glad you brought up the meditation, because I had to be deliberate about replacing my screen time with meditation, because it's traumatizing to see videos popping up. Like, I know friends, people wanted me to play some of the videos of George, Floyd, and that situation, or videos of Amy Cooper and all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, when you are being bombarded by those images, especially, it's still even in my safe places. Like, my safe place is Mocha
Yes.
Medicine. That's out to blackout and
Access.
Mocha Medicine. So
Yeah.
to go into my online communities where I usually can go to vent, or go to be honest about my fatigue or my anxiety or whatever that
Mm-hmm.
is, and to be seeing picture and video and photos and articles, and it's just like, damn, like, is there no way? Maybe
Yes,
we
you
can
hit the
have.
nail on the head. How can you escape? And it's also part of the trauma. You're the expert in this, Dr. Alana, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's reoccurrence of seeing it over and over again. And as you're seeing it over and over again, you notice your muscles are tenser. Your breath is more
Yeah,
shallow. They're breathing faster. Your heart rate's beating faster.
yeah.
The anger is increasing.
Well, one thing
It's
that
increasing.
I always have to remind myself is that anger is an umbrella emotion. It's a
Yes, it
secondary
is.
emotion. So
Mm-hmm.
always when you're angry, there's something else underneath.
Under that.
Whether or not most of the time it's fear or fear based. It may be, and for me, that fear is in, I don't care what kind of degree that my child gets, my children, me, my partners, or whatever. It doesn't, in this world, the way that we have it right now, with so many primitive people in charge, who've written laws and
You
systems
better
and
say that.
structure that is at every turn damaging to the brown people in my life, for whatever dumbass reason they would use to justify it. I can't. We black folk cannot respectable our way out of this experience of constant racism, and it's frustrating. to have to be invalidated. That's another
Yes.
trauma, right? Because we've
Oh
never
yes.
owned up to what racism has done to all of us. Because it doesn't just damage Black people, it damages white people. Because to
Mm-hmm.
lack empathy is to have a spiritual blindness, a psychological, emotional, spiritual blind spot
So, sis, because there
for,
is a spirituality
for other
component part
human
of this.
beings. You can't
Yes.
have your foot on or your knee on another human being's neck and have and listen to those cries and
Mm.
listen to those people and listen to people say this person is having a problem here with
Yes.
your knee on their neck
On
and
their neck.
that person as a whole human being worthy, a spiritual being having a human experience just like you. You can't be thinking like that and
You
engage in
can't.
that
It's not
behavior
rational.
and
It's
think that
not rational.
it's
It's
not
not
happening.
empathetic. And you know how much force, and you're being videotaped. So you really don't care.
You
You
don't
don't care.
you
You know what I'm saying?
ooh,
This is like you're getting off on this in my mind because you're not in your right mind doing this anyway. So in my mind, this is
mm,
actually getting you off. Like you know what I'm saying? I mean,
mm.
you
It has to
as
be
a
doing something for you or you wouldn't be doing it. There is a
yes,
reasoning
it's
behind any
evil.
behavior. And even
Yes.
though we try to justify all kinds of things, we actually really have to start looking at what is on your mind. Really, what
Hmm.
are you thinking? So the reason that I go ahead, go ahead.
And, I just want to say this. I'm not trying to go off topic. We're going to stay on topic. But as a child psychiatrist, I think I have the pleasure of going back to
Mm,
understand where it starts. And,
mm,
it's interesting the stories I hear and also the people I see because I just want to make it clear. I actually see middle class, majority of my patients in my private practice are middle class white individuals
mhm, mhm,
and in an area that is considered high class. But then when I go to my clinics, it's the exact opposite.
mhm,
In most cases, it's Hispanics, blacks, in lower economical areas that I
mhm.
see as well. And so one of my patients told me, well, I know I can just tell you all this because I know we don't socialize in the same circles.
Mm,
So let me just start pouring it out. But
mhm,
it was helpful for me to
mhm.
understand and be empathetic to his situation because now we're communicating.
Right.
And he's telling me where this started for
Yeah.
him,
Right.
right? Because a baby doesn't come out feeling racist against
Right.
another person. It
Right.
doesn't happen that way,
Yeah.
right? It's taught, it's
And
learned.
it is definitely learned behavior. And the beautiful thing is that anything that's learned can be unlearned. But it starts with being willing to acknowledge that the problem is there. And when the knee jerk response is I'm not racist, that is one of those situations where it's like, I know you wouldn't think of yourself as racist, but it's very difficult if not impossible to exist in a society that has an invisible structure of white supremacy without absorbing some of the thought processes and behaviors and acculturation that makes a person act out with like, hey, I realize, to be conscious enough to be a person who claims to be a liberal person, to say, if to recognize that when I get emotional or get upset, this mechanism of calling the police and reporting this black person and raising my voice and getting all upset
Oh,
and
girl.
agitated is going to paint a picture that gives me a leg up in this situation and may even result in the death of another person. And
Exactly, because
that is, go ahead, go ahead.
that person understands it's a stereotype. Let's
Yeah.
take Amy Cooper for example. We talked about this, Alana. You
Hmm.
can actually see the change in her emotions as she, grabs her dog by the collar, right? Also strangle him almost.
Hmm.
Makes a phone call to the police
Hmm.
on a black man who's bird watching. Talking about you're threatening me. So why? How is he threatening you when he's just actually basically making sure you follow the park's directions for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Well,
That doesn't even have to. We don't even have to go there. It's
right.
the park's law
Yeah.
to right to have your dog on a leash, right? And how she goes through this phone call and all of a sudden she becomes more emotional. Well, I don't understand, and more emotional, backs up from him as she becomes, I mean, man, I mean, if you
Yeah.
can just look at that from beginning to end,
Hmm.
it's alarming and it's scary
Yeah.
because they, some individuals. Now, first of all, I spoke to a lot about this. We are here to educate. We are
Hmm.
here to have a conversation, and we are here to be real. Okay, so this is not us, talking, invoking or implicit racism and having
Hmm.
a reaction towards it or anything. No, this is to have an open conversation. A lot of it mainly probably come from our personal experiences, but us knowing the psychology of racism as well, and how it
Hmm.
operates and how it's evoked and how it's, thought into to act, between individuals.
Hmm.
But I was stunned. I was like, wow, this is, it's like she's acting
Hmm.
out what it takes in order for the police to respond, which she has known to be the stereotype of the white woman crying out, asking for help on the
Hmm.
phone,
Yeah.
and all he is just recording her.
And it leads me to that space where, a lot of people have expressed frustration because as white people are actually waking up and going, oh, this is really happening. Is this still going on? I mean, I think I will say that this is the one thing that I can, I always have to find the positives in trauma because that's how you get through them. Um,
Yes.
these are forcing conversations that we have not had the balls as America to have, which is,
Mm-hmm.
and they're very uncomfortable conversations because from a white person's standpoint, they're always going to the mental gymnastics already started of justifying why the person would do this, that, or the other, and that becomes frustrating and infuriating. Or you have those group of people that say, "Oh my God, this is so awful. I'm just waking up and realizing that racism is something important. White people, black people teach me. Somebody teach me," which is also kind of like, I'm glad that you're waking up.
Yeah.
And because I'm
Yes.
trying not to say but, because I don't want to lose the first part. I'm glad you're waking up to this. And there is only so much energy that the people who are being oppressed and have the need of America on our neck, there's only so much that we should be expected to do to remove the need from the neck. Um,
Yes.
and I think
Yes.
that we have to empower white people to talk to white people and to be
Yes.
able to say, hey, this is not okay. Like effectively, because it feels like they're scared to have the conversation that they now know needs to be had.
That's right. It has to. That's the only way I see us progressing forward, right?
So on
Because it's
that
not going
note,
to change if we don't.
I'm going to teach a skill real quick before we go because I know
Mm-hmm.
we're getting low on time.
Oh,
Um,
already? My
Yeah,
goodness.
time flies. So we're going to have a part two. Join us next week. We said we'll continue the conversation because, of course, there's more to say. And we see you all's comments, and we'll address some of those next week as well. But I want to teach the Dear Man skill because the Dear Man skill is dialectical behavioral therapy. It's my favorite skill. It activates the prefrontal cortex. If you don't know what I'm talking about with this prefrontal cortex, go watch my damn videos on YouTube. Sign up for the empathy skills practice course on the Trauma Recovery Academy. I'm not going to go into those brain systems today, but I will give you a free opportunity. What? Free? Alana, what are you saying?
Free. Yes, free.
Free, free. Now listen, this Dear Man skill is my favorite skill because you do not have to understand all of this stuff that I'm saying to know that when you are emotional, when you are upset, when you're irritated, when you're going through trauma and your amygdala is ooh wee, right? You need a skill so that you don't lash out and create something that you do not want to happen. So we all have to learn how to use our tools more effectively.
Dr. Lana, what's the amygdala?
The
Just
amygdala,
pronounce that enough.
this is the
Go ahead, Dr. Lana.
you see that in there? That amygdala, that little bitty part of you is huge in producing your experience right now. You are having emotional roller coasters because you're human. And anybody who ever told you that you weren't supposed to cry, that you weren't supposed to feel, that you weren't having emotions, even if you can't feel them, even if you think you're a robot, you are not.
Right. Right.
And if you are not feeling those emotions right now, they are in there. They are just probably suppressed, repressed, causing you to feel depressed, numb, angry, irritable, down about life. Everything's a war, everything's a battle. It doesn't have to be used, dear man.
Right.
So,
Dear man.
Dear Man is a worksheet. So text 832-772-2129. Text the words Dear Man, and it'll ask for your email address. Send your email address. It'll take you to a site where you can download the Dear Man worksheet. So, real quick, Dear Man is D, describe the facts of the situation. E, express your feelings and opinions about it in I statements. A, assert what you want or the boundary that you're setting with the other person. R, reinforce why you want the other person to do what you asserted. And so that's a quick rundown of Dear Man. But the idea is that number one, it forces you to stop and think through what you're going to say before you. Hmm, you know what I'm saying, Doc? Come on.
I do. Use our emotions to say something we regret or we don't know or we assume, and let's go on and on, right? See, the thing about us is that as humans, is sometimes it's hard to process information if our amygdala is heightened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we don't think with our brain, we think with our emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the two connect. And that's why it's important for us to understand that in the situations that get you riled up, to have that dear man.
Right.
I think that's important.
Because right now, I mean, we already had coronavirus and going on, and then we have now a situation where people are on edge, people
Yes.
are agitated. So it's not hard to get me to where I want to verbally clap on somebody and physically. It's sometimes it's taking physical restraint, and I know that people that's a reality of human beings, period. Not just folks that have quote unquote mental illness. We all can have a difficult time, depending on the environment you grew up in. You might have trouble keeping your hands to yourself because other people didn't keep their hands to themselves on you. So you may have difficulty literally restraining yourself from harming other people when you're angry, when you're depressed, when you're sad or upset. And that is, of course, a problem because we got kids who are locked up in houses with their parents, right? And we got parents who are under additional stressors now. And now we're also throwing constant racial trauma and embattlement on top of that. So using effective communication tools and thinking about what you're saying before you say, Dr. Don, give me a scenario. Give me a scenario. And I do see you all's questions in the comments. And what we'll do is afterwards, we'll go through, we'll collect those questions and we'll answer those in the second, in part 2 next week.
Yeah, scenario could be like a man who basically is going to work. He's an essential worker. Let's say he's getting screamed at by his boss because his boss is frustrated about the situation at work. Mm-hmm. So this guy takes it in, and he comes home, the man of the house, brings in the money, supposed to take care of the family, and all of a sudden he sees an image on TV of a police officer on a man's neck. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I can understand how that can be a trigger when in other areas of your life you feel like someone's strangling you. Mm-hmm. You feel invalidated. You feel unheard, right? You feel not worthy of what you're doing. And you're a man. So it's like another man is screaming at you.
Mm, mm. So is
And
it
you have no resource or how you were able to get out of
okay?
that.
It started breaking up, so I didn't catch that last part.
Okay, just so just what I was saying is just like when that man was helpless, those are triggers:
Mm,
helplessness, invalidation.
mm,
I'm suffocating. I can't breathe.
yeah,
I hear my boss tell me. I may hear somebody else at home holler at me, or be frustrated because I'm helpless with my situation. It comes under. Okay,
yeah. So
hear me?
it's
Satan is busy, but we gonna get it
I'm
out.
about to say it's
It just
acting up. It's acting up, but I think I heard most of what you were saying. So a way that if he's triggered in that particular moment, and there's a family member or somebody that's present and wants to respond to them in a helpful way with a dear man, that's kind of the scenario that I think I heard. So that's what I'll so
yes.
somebody who's in his support system, whether that's his wife, his family, his kids, they can say something to the effect of, um, I can see that you are really upset right now. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that we all have reason to be. And I feel this is that's the D, describe the facts of the situation. You just saw a very upsetting image. So it would make sense that right now you're angry and fearful.
Mm-hmm.
I so express my feelings and opinions. So this made it, instead of saying you're doing this or you're doing that, I am feeling scared and sad and uh, angry as well. Assert what you want or the boundaries that you're setting, right? It may be, I'll make your dinner and so to help you feel better. And I need you to not yell. I need you to stop yelling and let's sit down and have a quiet meal or let's do some meditation because I understand that what you really want right now is just to feel calm or feel better. So that may be doing meditation with them
Mm-hmm.
or inviting them to
Yes.
a massage or some sort of healthier coping
Mm-hmm.
mechanism than what people usually grab, which might be alcohol or other substances. So that's just an example of a dear man. I'll stop there and we glitching, so I don't know exactly how much of that came through. But we'll continue the conversation. Doc, tell them where to find you.
Yes. Can I just say one more thing to add to your
Sure, go ahead.
conversation, Alana?
Go
Because I
ahead.
think it's important. A part of Dear Man is sometimes with people who are not used to talking, because this is coming from somewhere, that sometimes I get my own scenario of what my day was like or when I felt the way that I'm observing. So
Mhm.
I understand how you may feel because I see myself in you and this is how I felt and this is the situation. So I'm wondering if we're able to talk about your day. Is there
Mhm.
anything underlying this? And just
Yeah,
meet them where they are,
yeah,
because like you're saying, it's empathy. That's practicing empathy. And it's also about effective communication,
yeah,
allowing them to, meet them where they are and having a conversation and sometimes putting yourself in that conversation.
yeah.
Yeah, and by
Absolutely.
giving examples. But yes, they can find me at Dr. Dawn Psych MD. That's DRDAWN, P as in Paul, SYCHMD, on all social media platforms.
All right. So Dr. Don, you are a wealth of information. I thank you for having this conversation with me. I see myself in you all as well. Thank you
Oh,
for your
yes.
comments. Thank you for thank you for joining the conversation. And we will be back here. I will be back here next Thursday. Dr. Don and I will be back next Thursday to continue the conversation about racial trauma and what can we do. Man, we had some good gems today. Meditation, we have to start doing the deep breathing. We have to start doing dear man, get your communication skills up, practice, use empathy, get it together, everybody. And as I like to say, I love you and you can't do nothing. Ooh, sometimes you make it hard. Sometimes you make it hard. But
There's nothing
I
about it.
love you and there ain't nothing that you can do about it. All right, Dr. Dawn, I'll see you next week. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank
Good
you, Dr. Alauna. Bye, everybody.